Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today? Happy Friday. Glad to talk to two of my most favorite friends in golf. Brian, how's things at Mill Creek?
Hey, what? It's not bad. It's great to be seen finally.
Is it?
Hopefully, we'll be open here shortly and be ready for golf again.
I'm Michael Ferranti. Talk to me about Reserve Run and Links of Firestone. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good. Good to see some people, now good to see the weather start to change a little bit, and hopefully we get things rolling here.
Well, glad to talk to you guys today, and glad to have stayed in touch over the craziest 5 weeks of my life, and I'm thinking it's got to be the craziest 5 weeks of your lives. What have you learned about the golf industry in the last 5 weeks and the things you've been put through? It seems the diehard nature of the golfers is unrelenting, but yet you guys have had to go up and down with how you operate. Brian, anything to share about what you've been through trying to stop and go with being safe, but also being open and your final decisions?
Yeah, we come down to the conclusion of, number one, we want to make sure that everybody's safe. So it's definitely a different year for us starting out. Had an early start, obviously, in March. We were open for a couple of weeks and had the opportunity to see some golfers. With the COVID stuff, we obviously stopped our operation completely, and we're hoping to get that up and running around the 1st of May, leagues and so on down the lines. But it's been a lot of juggling events, leagues, stay and play groups, you name it, basically everything that was in the month of April and May, and some of the items that were events that were in the hopper for June. We've moved those to September and October, and even late October, early November. So we're hoping for some good weather on the back end to get through this. When we do get back up and running, there's going to be a lot of regulations, a lot of different procedures that we're going to have in place for, just for the safety of the game. Number one, we've put stoppers in the cups. We've limited the number of people that can ride in golf carts. You name it, from start to finish, it's definitely a different scenario that we've been accustomed to doing.
Mike, how about out at Reserve?
And we're kind of adapting as we go. All the new regulations, that come out, just try to adapt our operations to it as it happens, and just kind of make where we can.
I got to believe it had to be nerve-wracking during the first few weeks of this. Of course, we had some nice weather as well, but we're seeing the governor on his press conferences, and you got people wanting to show up. I think, Mike, you and I talked about golfers showing up from 4 in a car coming from where they came from, and then you're trying to convince them that I can only stay in business if you're in separate carts. Talk about the day in, day out. Am I open? Am I safe to open? Should I close?
Yeah, it's when it all started, it was a little confusing. There were a lot of gray areas, as things were just kind of coming out. But as they started to lay out kind of the safety procedures, at different places and what you need to do to keep people safe, as long as you're able to adapt the operation to it, we felt more comfortable, being able to service the people like that. Obviously, they had made it clear that, golf was allowed, through a handful of their meetings, but it was really just golf, only. So we've been shut down for a while. We opened back up, shut back down until we kind of got everything in place. But no food and beverage sales, no, anything around the golf shop. It's just, going out, playing and going home is really where we ended up.
Brian, how about you guys during those couple days, 10 days of are we open, are we closed? How did Mill Creek sort it through? And
we were in the same boat. It's a fine line that you walk with safety, not only for the patrons and the customers that come to your facility, but for the staff as well. I go home, I've got a wife that's a teacher, so she's done with school for the year, and I've got a 5-year-old at home. So it's like, I don't want to bring anything back that would get them in harm's way from a health perspective. So, there's two sides that just about every story. We're in a different scenario, obviously being owned by a Metro Park system. So it's, when we shut down recreation as a whole, golf was part of the recreation operation. So little bit different scenario than someone that owns a facility or a company that owns a facility, but we've made, tons of adjustments. You'll see plexiglass in our pro shop. When we do reopen, you'll see staff with rubber gloves. We've got sanitizers. Ironically, we actually put in sanitizing stations in January for the first time. We had no idea that it was going to be used, at this depth. We bought a bunch of stuff and, just happened to be prepared by dumb luck by that stretch. But, it's certainly been different, and it's, how we, scrub our carts down and sanitize our carts, to no ball washers out. We took all the bunker rakes out. It's just very different than what we're accustomed to, and what we've been around basically all our life by playing the game.
Now, golfers are known as a gentle bunch, never ones to complain, always ones to understand how life should be. How is the golfing community, as they came to your site, adjusting to all these changes and can't touch the rake, can't do this, this is available, this is not?
Very good. I mean, the demand for golf is it trumps all. Now when we get into season and we're back to everybody being open and you got plenty of options, then I think there might be some grumbling, but for the most part, honestly though, I mean, everybody was just happy to be out, to just enjoy some activities outside safely, and they were happy to go along with all of our policies that we had to put in place, including the check-in. And we did everything. Our pro shops were completely closed. We did everything online or over the phone, so they literally didn't have to come into a building. They didn't have to touch anything that anybody else touched, and we didn't have to interact with them personally at all. It was just walk in, get in a cart, go, and then we sanitized everything when it finished and kind of rinse and repeat. But until it took a while to get that procedure down, and that's why we had shut down for a while just to make sure everything was up and ready.
I got the opinion reading some of the articles that county health officials are actually showing up at golf courses. What kind of enforcement procedures have you seen, or what are you being advised from county officials about how they're going to try to enforce, help, assist, guide?
I think we're all kind of just waiting on really Monday. I guess the governor's going to lay out some stuff that really takes, golf courses out of the gray area. I think that's probably been the biggest component. It's changing by the day. Almost, a couple times during the day, they change and put new things in from week to week. So I think once that gets some cohesion to it, I think you'll see some more universally used procedures and regulations across the counties. But it's different with every county. There's no question about it. And they definitely are out, looking around and making sure that everybody's using their social distancing, the 6 feet away, and they're out there looking around. I mean, not only from our golf perspective, but the metro parks as a whole. It's something we've really had to advertise and push, from a community engagement standpoint, to make sure. One of the funny things about being shut down, about 3 o'clock every day, we've allowed people to basically walk all day on the golf course or jog or ride their bikes, as long as they stay on the paths. We've seen from 3 o'clock on probably 200 and 300 people out there walking around. So your parking lot's filled. It feels like you should be, behind the counter, like there's a tournament or there's something going on. And then you just see all these people walking.
How do we go forward? All of life is going to change, no doubt. And it's going to take, in my mind, 2 years until this all shakes out, a year and a half, maybe at the earliest. But, my friends in the sports business, football, concerts, it's just an amazing future we have trying to figure this out. Of all that stuff, it seems golf is pretty well positioned to actually kind of exist as it has, at least on the course. I think dinners are going to be a challenge, but at least in terms of golf being played, it seems to be one of the common community activities that can almost restart without too much of change and modification.
I mean, the daily play and stuff, I think is going to remain pretty much, the same, other than, demand and obviously moving with the economy. The economy kind of affects all from a spending standpoint, but the golf itself as the activity, I think with the policies that are in place and the things that are on the golf course, obviously a little bit different way of how you play it with the pins in without, rakes. So you're going to have to kind of scuff the bunker and place it, type of thing. So other than some little rule changes, I think the game itself, kind of goes forward pretty much the same.
Can you talk about that? Scuff the bunker. So what's that going to be? I'm going to kick up a pile of sand and then place the ball there.
That's what we've been doing so far. Since you can't really rake it if you're in a spot that's in a footprint or something, you just kind of got to shuffle your foot around a little bit, give it a smooth over, and then place the ball down there.
Because there's no rakes.
Yeah.
Well, I think as we progressively crawl into this, I think right away, the first phase of the governor's order, the president's order, I think you're going to see a little bit of hesitation, coming out of the gate. But I think, once we get back to where we can have league play, where you can have events, hopefully in, phase 2 and phase 3 of this, and you're all underway, I think it'll get back to normal. My question is always going to be, what happens in the fall when the second round comes, and, we go from there. And the other, question mark from our end is, from a programming perspective or a daily play perspective, some people lost their jobs through this. There's a lot of people that filed for unemployment. Are they going to have the means to be able to play and have the exposable income to be able to play and take part in some of the stuff that you have? I'm hopeful that everybody will just be the point where they're going to have cabin fever coming out of the house here after being 6 or 7 weeks, on lockdown, and we'll be back to normal. But, there's definitely going to be some hesitation from some people, and rightfully so.
The staple and the presence of the golf scramble in any community these days, the last 15, 20 years, 25 years, the golf scramble is just so functional to charities, to fundraising, to socializing. How do golf scrambles continue, and what's the economic impact of scrambles having to do with less?
No, I mean, I think that outings and large, gatherings are going to take a hit, especially early on here. Like Brian said, all of our events in May and most of our events in June that had kind of a big gathering, plus all the hotel groups that we had scheduled, people taking golf trips and traveling and stuff like that are definitely getting hit with this for sure. But yeah, from the scrambles, like having 140 people all come for a 2 o'clock shotgun type of thing is kind of right in the target zone of what they're trying to avoid, a mass gathering of people, a big group getting together, big group eating after, and drinking. So I think that there's going to be some innovation maybe there in the golf industry on how to run an event and do a charity or a fundraiser with a lot of people that isn't in the normal kind of shotgun and dinner buffet structure.
Your charities that come out and run scrambles, I mean, those are huge fundraisers for those organizations.
It really depends. I mean, we have, some events that, make between 5 and 20, depending on how advantageous they are with sponsorships, which I think is a big key. I mean, how comfortable are the organizers going to be to ask people and businesses for sponsorships? I think that's, probably a tough ask right now, especially out of the gate. But anywhere upwards to, I mean, we do an event called the Till Open, which is for the Campfield schools. They take both golf courses. I think they raised $103,000 in one day last year. So, I mean, it's, probably upwards to $1 million when it's all said and done with, the 60 some events that we are fortunate enough to host per year, if you add everything that they bring to the table. So, I mean, you certainly have, the takeaway from, are they going to be able to ask? Are they going to be able to comfortably ask people? And our businesses, do they have the means to be able to provide sponsorship opportunities to the events too?
If we had a scramble tomorrow, the legendary M&M scramble happens tomorrow out at Middle. Mike, I know you've been a great fan of the M&M as well. How do we have a scramble tomorrow? 2 bags to a cart, 1 guy's walking?
I mean, it's going to be part of it, maybe, but I still don't know how we get that many people kind of gathered around in a spot. And a lot of the big parts of the scramble is the lunch before and the dinner afterwards and the ceremony and stuff. And there's just, at this point and during phase 1, probably into phase 2 from that kind of number standpoint, if you have 140 people, even in a pavilion, it's kind of hard to, separate them enough to be safe and be able to serve
in an outdoor tent structure.
Yeah, I mean, 6 feet with 100 people, all standing 6 feet apart, it's a pretty big tent if you can get them there. But still, I still think the social gathering side, when they hand out these phases, they're going to jump in steps, 10, 50, 100, but golf scrambles are 140, and M&M, well, you've seen the crowds and stuff for that. Plus, you add alcohol in the mix and keeping people separated at that point. It's just probably kind of a socially thing. Like, you don't want to put people in a position where they get drunk and then just don't care about the rules.
And you're seeing the protests at state capitals and stuff. There's this interest from some to say, just let us do what we want to do. But you guys are beholden to a license and operating standards that as much as you want to just, hey, it's your decision, live how you want to live, you ultimately have to run a business that's responsible to county and state laws.
Absolutely. When it comes down to it, it's all about safety and making sure that you're withheld within the regulations. And I think that that's going to be an important factor. Just to give an example, we've had, numerous phone calls with our AJGA and some of the events that they have, and basically what they're going to do going forward in scenarios that they're allowed to participate and host events is they're getting rid of their shotgun starts altogether. They're getting rid of the junior am portion altogether at this stage of the game early on. And what they're doing from a tournament perspective is they're all going to split tees. And as soon as you finish, no handshakes, no nothing like that, you'll tip your hat, you'll come into the scoring, sign your card, and leave and go back to the hotel room. And that's what they're going to do from a tournament perspective. And everything will be done basically like virtual golf. You'll have your leaderboard will be on a phone or online. You can go in and check where your tee times are. And that's kind of the things that they're doing to kick off their season in June when they get back. So they've been in contact with like the PGA Tour and a couple other entities as well. But it all comes down to safety and what you're really going to be allowed to do.
That, along those lines, that's where you're going to see some of the innovation in some local courses in how to handle a scramble or an event. And it's just, hey, we're going to run it a little differently. You're going to have to go boxes when you finish, and you come in, you play in tee times, go turn in your card, go home, type of thing, just to at least have some kind of event.
So scrambles as a tee time, not as shotgun starts,
if possible.
Yeah. I just know, again, I always thought that regular play could come back, fine with some modifications. League play could come back. The scrambles, I was just trying in my head to figure out, how those come back.
Even league play too, you have to be careful. I mean, it's not a shotgun necessarily, but it's a draw to gather. You have 30, 40, 50 people in the league. The league's at 5 o'clock, but everybody comes at 4:30, hangs around. It's a lot of people to have out there. It's just, and they always like to obviously hang around after or have a beer or something after too, which is going to be pretty tough.
What other changes do you see, or have you started entering your mind about how golf has permanently changed as an amateur local business operation?
I think it is to an extent with what we've got going on. Obviously tournaments are going to be a tough sell. Outings are going to be a tough sell right out of the gate. But I think, once we get to the point where they ease up on the regulations and what we're allowed to do, I think it'll have some normalcy to it. But, there's definitely a lot of gray area right now. And I think that's what we're trying to figure out creative ways to make sure that, number one, you follow the rules, and number two, that you can do as much as you can with what you have to deal with. I mean, coming in from a league round and socializing and hanging out, which is like the heart of what golf is all about, bringing people together and, bringing them together in large groups, I think will be on sort of a delay for a little period. It's going to be interesting to see what happens is when people come in after their round, going right to the trunk and heading home. That's going to be very weird, instead of staying and having a burger and going from there. A couple of the things that we're doing is, we're doing a lot of to-go when we do get the restaurant up and running and open, and we'll have our food and beverage cart out there. So you're probably going to get a lot more off of that than you would being able to come in and sit down and have a hot dog or a beer or whatever you have after your round.
No, not even, oversized sitting or putting 4 people at an 8-top, even tempting to allow that at some point?
I mean, with the restaurant, we're following, very closely the governor here, and very anxious to hear what he says on Monday, because it affects the restaurant business too, which is obviously another part of our operation.
If the governor says you can do it, do you see a way for you to safely allow people to mingle, albeit you're an 8-top, the size of an 8-top, but there's only 4 of you sitting there now? Is that feasible? Or?
If that, I mean, we've spent the last couple of weeks up in the restaurant, looking at different configurations with the tables and stuff. And honestly, when you take a 6-foot tape measure, and stand there and really kind of put the chairs where they are, it's pretty far away. I mean, at a typical 8-top table, you're really fitting 2 people, like those the high tops at the Lake Club, or, I mean, you're getting 2 people to that. And if you do it in a zigzag motion, you might be able to get 4, down a stretch of like 20 feet. So a foursome spread that far apart, it's going to feel pretty weird. But it's also the risk of trying to corral these people into following the rules as well. You put them in a room and they start scooting closer to each other. We've had enough of a challenge that of just getting them to kind of leave when they go to their cars, you know, I mean, and when you start getting golfers, like I said, they just don't want to leave. There's still that drive to be social.
You actually had citizens observing your parking lot call local police. Local police had to come out. Did they talk to the actual guys hanging at the trunk, or they come out to you guys at the shop?
Well, the guys at the trunk weren't there by the time they got there. Like I said, I mean, as soon as our staff sees them really kind of, you know, hanging, it's just a kind of first one's a polite, hey guys, you know, you have to keep this 6 foot distance. We have the signs posted everywhere. You know, if you're finished with your round, you know, we kindly ask you to you know, go on your way. The second, you know, reminder is a little bit stronger. And by that time, you know, they had gone. It was a group of about 8 people that played, 2 groups, you know, that had finished. But again, you know, these guys probably had a few drinks and, you know, just like anything. But yeah, I mean, as soon as you get some people together like that, it's really kind of hard to control them.
Nobody wants their business tagged as a hotspot. That
Right.
6 people got sick at this place yesterday.
Yeah, you don't want to be tagged as a hotspot for anything, and you don't want to be tagged with sending the health department in, because it's bad PR for everybody. So it's a fine line that we're definitely walking. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I know that there are some operations, you know, golf or not golf, that are just kind of rolling with it. You know, we don't have sanitizer. We're just washing down with soap. It's a personal decision from a ownership standpoint to go that way, but it's not one that, you know, we're going to take, and it shouldn't be, obviously.
I think I'm buying a lot of cheap bottles of vodka. The $5 big leaguers are just getting squirt bottles, and because you can't find hand sanitizer, you can't find wipes. So I'm just thinking, just a squirt bottle of vodka in my car, in my bag, and when the game sucks, I'll drink it, and when my hands are dirty, I'll squirt it.
Well, you need 70%, so you got to find some moonshine or Everclear.
Are the golf courses? How important is the food and beverage on overall operation? And if you can maintain relatively normal golf pace, but there's going to be a hit to food and beverage, is it going to cost us some courses, or is there enough business to maintain it?
I don't know that it'll cost us a couple courses. I mean, for our scenario, it's a little bit different. We're to the point where it's just more of a golf-only crowd. The tougher scenarios, if you're doing a lot of weddings, you're doing a lot of banquets, I think that those ones are in a tougher scenario in the short window.
Yeah, I can agree from the golf side. I mean, it's not that the food and beverage controls golf, you know, by any means. It's a nice supplement. You know, at our facility, we have actually a full restaurant and a banquet center at Lynx that is obviously very affected, you know, by that aspect of it. But from the overall, you know, perspective, I mean, adjusting a business plan a little bit so that, you know, we're not going to be operating a restaurant probably for a little while. So we're going to kind of do an elaborate snack shop and have a little bit less staff, you know, a little bit less food costs and stuff, you know, but we'll run a kind of a souped up snack shop for a little bit until we can get like a normal amount of people back in the restaurant, and kind of keep going on that model.
How are you going to charge for golf, knowing that it's essentially 1 cart per person, and that's definitely a revenue hit?
We have one fee. It's basically it's a golfing fee and a cart fee, and basically it's your half a cart, so they don't purchase the whole cart. So it'll be the same as how it's always been.
I mean, it's a tough one from an economical standpoint when you only have a limitation. You know, we're working hard on some things right now to try to be in position to get 2 people back in the cart eventually, because it's a big part from a revenue standpoint of not being able to get that many people on the golf course at one time. But from a pricing standpoint, I mean, if it was auction pricing or dynamic pricing right now, we could made 3 times what the going rate is, because there's just so much. There's no place to play and limited tee times when you have 1 person per cart. But we don't see our price changing. Like as we come out of this thing, we're going to stay in normal pricing. We're going to have a small fee, $5, $10 if you request a single cart, just because our field is so limited. So, I mean, but that's about it. And that's about what the market would probably bear.
Brian, you've had more walkers than most courses. Mike, yours is pretty much a rider course. You think it's going to have a new surge in walkers wanting to play golf as opposed to the automatic cart thing that seems to happen?
I think that certainly has some relevance to it. We have probably about 50% of our players do walk. Fortunately for us, we're flat enough of a facility where there's not too much hills and undulations, so it's an easy walk when you're playing a 9-hole league or you're playing 18 holes. So I think that'll kick up a little bit.
What are you guys looking for, hoping to see on the Pro Tour? What's your latest things you've been reading about? What are you hoping can happen? I saw one headline, Koepka, never at a loss for words, saying that pro events without a gallery is going to be a joke, something to that effect. So what are your thoughts about how pro golf tries to stay active in this period?
Well, I'm interested to see how they take it. I mean, from the event themselves, just to get some play and to be able to watch on TV would be a welcome thing from our side, from a spectator side, kind of jonesing for, some kind of live sports. But it kind of bears down to the tournaments themselves. I mean, from a financial standpoint, they depend on ticket sales and concessions and sponsorships and stuff that I'm not sure how they're tackling that model, in that way. But I'm sure the TV rights probably help out with that. But from the actual events themselves, it'd be interesting to see.
I think from what I've heard is, June and July, when they come back, they're definitely going to have no spectators. In August, sometime in mid-August, they'll have spectators. I think the PGA Tour, obviously being able to be on TV, I think certainly helps. I think, from like the European Tour and stuff like that, where they really depend on what they have coming at the gate, I think they're probably going to be the one that's in the most trouble out of everybody. But I think from a PGA Tour perspective, there's so much more money on our American tour than there is overseas that it certainly helps to this point. But it would be great to see some sports and golf being one of those on television. It's going to be a pretty cool fall watching everything that's sort of crammed into September, October, November for sure.
And Mike, if you want, if you're jonesing for TV golf, I'd be glad to put a GoPro on my cart and you can just watch my game. Watch it. You can watch it from the right side of the ball, which is lefty golf.
There you go.
Golf, and you're more than welcome.
Like a mirror.
Yeah, it looked normal. Hey, I wouldn't be surprised though. I mean, honestly, in a general standpoint, from innovation, type of thing and adaption, I'd watch amateur golf. You want to put a TV show on there and just follow a couple of foursomes or put the leagues on Tuesday nights. I'm sure people will watch it right now for sure.
I think that's going to be the next step for greatest golfer, live league golf.
There you go. I mean, seriously, take a camera out to league nights and I'm sure you'd get some people watching for sure.
YMCA Live. When are you going out golfing again?
Have you played?
What's that?
I played Monday.
You teed it up yet?
I played Monday. How about you guys?
Oh, nice.
0? 0?
Yeah.
How's your shoulder? You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Are you really?
40 yards of mulch today. I'm ready, baby. I'm stronger.
All right, boys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Todd.